Welcome to the Pink Square Show. It's time to grab your crown, swish your gown, and get the party started. Welcome to the Pink Square Show, and thanks so much for joining us. We're a show that celebrates the art of gathering and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Today, we are holding court with the indomitable Cheryl Rich. And I say that because once you hear her story, she is the epitome of triumphing over trauma. And that is the theme of today's show. Miss Rich, welcome to the show. It is such an honor to have you here today.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh my goodness, you went through a fair share to get me here, and I'm so honored to be here.
You deserve every bit of it, every bit of effort. You have blessed me since I first laid eyes on you on actually TGIF on Fox Soul. Mm-hmm. And I remember the day that it happened. Thank you, TGIF, for having her on. Shout out to you because it's one of my favorite shows, but that morning I was in a rush. I was getting ready to go to work, had it on YouTube, and listening to their regular antics, etc. And you came on, heard your name, kept on moving, but I was stopped in my tracks when you started telling your story. And I knew from that point that I had to meet you. I needed to give you another platform to be able to tell your story. So for today, what I'd really like for you to do is for you to feel comfortable. Today's show is dedicated to you. I really want to listen. I want you to be in a space where there are no sound bites. You know, every time I've seen you thereafter, you're on somebody's show as a guest, and I know that you are getting booked a great deal since your story is out now. But with that said, I found that when you're telling your story, you're telling it in segments. So we've only been able to get snippets of your story. And I said, today, she is going to be able to talk. We don't have a time limit. I just want you in your space to be able to tell your story at your own pace and at a pace where all of those nuggets that and words of wisdom that you have for me and for the rest of the world can be easily told without you feeling rushed, without any constraints, because you're able to do it so eloquently and so articulately. And I just want the people to hear this. I just want the people to hear what you have to say.
Wow, what an intro here. I'm like, eloquently, I'm thinking, wow, the discomfort that life has brought me to a place of being willing to share very brutal life. That's just what I'm going to call it. And yet, when I hear you say, you tell it so eloquently, it's because I've accepted all the pain that will come with life. And I've accepted the fact that all things are meant to be, although we do have choice. And if there's anything that gives me the ability to tell such a tumultuous life story with a sense of peace, is because I want the whole world to know that we were built to last. That's for sure.
So let's get into it. Take us back. Because when you talk about pain, based on your story, that pain began before you were actually even introduced to the world, before you actually came out of the womb. So
true. You guys, I'm on a show called The House. I want you all to know that. It is on Fox Soul. Thank you, Fox Soul, for giving. Fox.
It's an amazing show.
They opened up the door. And that's how I got to TGI Friday, and that's how I got to you. So I'm used to eating, and I like you to do the same.
I'm going to be.
And anybody
I'm going
at home,
to be. Definitely going to be. We got our drinks, we got our food. So this is a time for us where it is girl chat. but not frivolous girl chat. We are going to be talking about some subjects today that I know many people can identify with. And when you hear Cheryl talk about her story, you really are going to scratch your head and wonder how she is where she got to today. We're going to talk about her background, but before she gets into her story, I have to say this. I would be remiss if I didn't say Cheryl is currently an executive producer, clinical psychologist. She has been called as a public speaker. She's an interventionist. She's an educator. And I needed to set the stage because when you hear her story, again, it is going to be a head-scratching moment where you're wondering how in the world did she get to where she got to. But there's a reason. She has been called for such a time as this. And so I'm going to stop talking and let her tell her story. So let me go back to my question.
Yes.
Talk about
coming out the womb. Yeah. I came out of a mother who already had an 8-year-old from the ghetto streets of Cleveland, Ohio. And I always like to bring that in because nobody likes to claim the hood. And yet, I always talk about a song called Bobby Womack Across 110th Street. And right now, I hear the lyrics. It goes, I was the third brother of 5, doing what I had to do to survive. I'm not saying what I did was right. Trying to break out of the ghetto is a day-to-day fight. Been down so long, getting up didn't even cross my mind. I knew there was a better way, and I was just trying to find. You don't know what you do till you put under pressure. Across 110th Street is a hell of a tester. I always like that song. That's my theme song.
Goosebumps.
Because many of us say what we won't do. Oh my God, how do they do that? Why she do this one? I would never. And I always tell people, say what you will, but just don't take your behind across 110th Street. So I start with that because Mama was across 110th Street. That's where she was. And she could not afford another child. So she went from Cleveland back to her mother in Baltimore, which there's a book coming. So I want you all to know it's called Naked Insanity. And so, I'm going to leave some nuggets in there. But she went back to her mother in Baltimore and actually paid for an abortion. Now, I often say, Madeleine, I shouldn't know that story unless I hid behind the left portion of the liver. That's where I was at. Because I'd rather look at it like that than know that my mother told me that. And so just the fact that Mama told me that sets up a scene of the distance, the never feeling that something was just right in my life. So coming out of a womb that didn't want me. And children don't have that cognitive ability to say something is missing here. I just don't know what it is. But instinctively, if something's missing, because everybody didn't have a rough life. I always like to say, there's been some people that's been nurtured and they came from, just a lot of support and emotional support. And then there's a lot of us that didn't. But what none of us will get away from is obstacles in our life. No matter if you came from the most cushiony background, you're going to have some obstacles. Yeah. So that's what it was. Mom told me that story in the heat of a moment of when I was wilding out, when I was drowning in pain. And so I came out of a womb unwanted and searched in all the wrong places for a connection.
How do you think that shaped you for the rest of your life? And I'm going to try and go in chronological order, but that's such an important point because there are many people who have experienced that or may have felt like something is not right without knowing that they too are products of something very, very similar. How do you think that influenced you and
Well,
in your life?
the block was always there. You know, when your birthright, I often say that it's your birthright to come out of a parent that loves you, nurtures you, wants you, and they're capable of letting you know that. And for many people, that did not happen. And I often say, it's your birthright has been stolen from you. And how do you put those pieces together before you self-destruct? There's no real tools that we get along the way of life. So people like you and all the journey you've been through will hear someone speak like myself, and because we connect in pain, you know, I'm told right now, start off with where you are now, Cheryl. Like you said, executive producer. Why, that's the highest credit in Hollywood you can get. I brought this whole show together, and I went and got all the other puzzle pieces, and couldn't have done it without Doug DeLuca of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Couldn't have done it without Kurt T. Jones, who carried us on the back and shoot, edit, score, the whole bit. But if I start there, and I'm trying to figure this out because I've got people in my ear right now, like, you gotta leave that ghetto stuff behind, girl. You can't keep bringing that stuff up. You put too much weight on the past. Start where you are now. But if I start where I'm at now, then do I discount where I've been? And so through pain, we connect. And so how do people understand that it's the pain that I'm in from moments that I don't even remember because I was too young? A lot of the trauma will happen as a child and we'll block it out. And that's grace from the creator of all of heaven and earth. I tell everyone, if I used to say, God, God, God. I'm sick of hearing this. Like, I don't see her. God's a girl in my world. In my world, God's a girl. But I don't see her and I don't never know. But then I finally concluded, show me someone who lives forever. And if you can't bring me that, then we must say there's a creator of all of heaven and earth. It's something bigger than we. So how do we find this connection to the void when we were so young that a lot of us are granted grace that we don't remember? The very first thing I say is that we see a moment like this and we begin to say, wow, why was I chosen for this moment? You're chosen and highly favored. Everyone out there, everyone here, chosen and highly favored for this moment, because we are here, talking about connecting the dots within self. And so that's the first step, that everyone gets to see this thanks to you. Will know that they're chosen and highly favored to start looking like, what is this pain? What is this self-hatred, this disconnect?
And I'm so glad that you haven't listened to the discourse about forgetting your, where you came from, however people phrase it, because I feel like, it's your driving force. We wouldn't have a Cheryl Rich if you did forget, your beginnings. I feel that that's the thing, that it's that kinetic energy that gets you to want to help others and not forget, but help others connect with their pain, to sit in it for a moment and understand that you went through it. But then you're also great at helping people move past it, which is why the show, today's episode, is entitled Triumphing Over Trauma. Right. So I want to cut to another monumental episode in your life that you mention, and that is you getting pregnant at the age of 11. Talk a little bit about that.
Let's toast on that one. Pregnant at 11. When I hear that now, at this stage of my life, toast to good health and peace of mind. I'm sitting in this moment right now And nowadays, whenever I hear that, I think to myself, that is a bit much. Unbelievable. Pregnant at 11. Mm-hmm. Um, those details I want to keep for the book. The tiny details in there. But yes, pregnant at 11. I'm walking around and at a 2-parent household. And when they find out I'm 7 months pregnant.
Did you know as an 11-year-old that that's what was
question.
happening with your body?
Yeah, no. And that is so wonderful question. Most of all, for all the parents that will be blessed to find your show and see your show, know about your show. Because how is it that an 11-year-old little girl is pregnant and she says she doesn't know? Mm-hmm. I knew I had done the pussy. I knew that someone was doing that with me.
And what it meant.
Yeah, yes, did I know what it meant? I'm not even sure an 11-year-old can really know. I was looking for some type of connection. And so, I was being treated nice. And I felt I was liked. So I was willing to do whatever. So by 11 years old, when I'm pregnant and they find out, and they're like, why do you say something? Because along the way, my mother, my sister, she's 8 years older, and my nickname is Tootie, and they would be like, Tootie, have you been doing anything with any little boys? Have you been doing? And I was screaming, crying, no, I haven't. Because, first of all, the fear of being whipped. Where does that word come from for the Black community? Comes from the enslavement trade. I have to get it clear. We were not slaves. We were enslaved.
Yes. I thank you for that distinction.
We have to.
Yes.
The enslavement demons chose the finest of the finest of the finest. But we were taught to beat. So I was very well aware. My mother with an extension cord. And again, that disconnect was there with Mom. And my sister was 8 years older. And as far as I'm concerned, I didn't find out till many years later that they were literally my torture team. And 3 of my friends who watched my childhood, one of them said that to me in 2009. They were like, oh, your mother and sister-in-law. Tootie, I hate to say it, but they were just your torture team. So why didn't I tell anyone that I did the pussy and I was being, fondled? Because I didn't feel a connection with anyone. My grandma Beulah was my rock. That was my mother's mother. But she was older then. She was old. Grandma Beulah was old by the time things started unfolding and I started making choices. And so there was no one to tell. I told my girlfriend and all the kids, I'm going to tell you, let your kids see this. Don't listen to your friends. Yeah. When you're young, when you're a kid, you can't go to other kids for advice. You're going to have to pick some adult somewhere so you can get you some solid advice. Because Linda, God rest her soul, said drink vinegar. And so when things were happening, I drank the vinegar. When she knew I was about to start to do these things, she says, well, whatever you do, drink vinegar, because her sister had a baby. And that was the advice. What kind of advice is that? So the
advice of a child?
Exactly. Drink vinegar. And I was on that vinegar throwing up all the way, but I was just drinking the vinegar. So by the time I felt something moving in my stomach.
You could feel the baby.
It's 7 months, and they thought it was 5 months when they found out. I felt something moving in my stomach. I was in Catholic school, and that's in a whole nother world.
That's a whole nother world. I'm a product of Catholic school too,
okay.
So yes.
More power to the Catholics. More power to the Catholic school. But that was and so I'm in Catholic school, and my blouses aren't buttoning. They're getting tighter and tighter. And I'm looking in the mirror, and I can see that visual right now of me looking in the mirror, trying to button my blouse, thinking I'm getting fat. But I literally would look at my stomach, and I would see it moving. And I would look back in the mirror. It took me years to look in the mirror. That is one of the self-love exercises I have, by the way. But won't jump. It took me years to look in the mirror because I remember, and in this moment, I am standing. The moment you start to talk about anything, your mind doesn't know if you are talking about it or if you are in it. So right now, I am that little girl standing in that mirror. And so we got to remember that. Any kind of trauma, whatever you've been through, you got to hit it and quit it quick. Because the moment that you begin to think about it, you become. And that's why dis-ease in the mind, disease in the body. So remember that. And so I'm standing in the mirror in this moment. I'm back and I'm thinking something's moving in my stomach. And that's as far as I went. So by the time my mother finally says to our baby doctor, who she would take me to, Dr. Stiggers. And he would sit there, I'm not checking her for, you gotta be kidding me. The girl may not have another period until she's 17. This is the most ridiculous. No, I refuse. And so mama was trying. My mother probably was in denial. Because they asked, they took me to the doctor. And then finally, mom said to Dr. Stiggers, yeah, I'll put her in the hot, check her. I want a full examination. And that's when they found out.
And what was your mom's reaction? Before you answer that question, I want to speak to mothers out there just really quickly because that touched me.
Please.
You know, there's so many instances where your daughters are coming to you and telling you that someone has touched me, someone has done this to me, someone has done something to me. And so many women are, so many children, because it happens to boys as well, are told either, no, it didn't happen, you're lying, or they are then victimized thereafter, or they're victim shamed, I should say, thereafter, and told that it was their fault. And to the parents who do this, I know it's hard to hear, so I don't want to condemn parents. It's a very difficult thing to know that you weren't there to protect your little one. And that's really what you're going through. You're going through the guilt that you should know. I mean, you weren't there at the time. It's not like you, in most cases, you didn't purposely take your child to a molester to do something to that person. So there's no guilting or shaming parents here. But please, for the love of God, listen. Listen. When your child is telling you that something is not right, I would just encourage parents to explore and make sure that before reacting, breathe, take a moment. It's shocking to hear that, but please, hear them when they come to you and tell you that something of this nature is happening. I'm sorry, I needed to make that announcement because
so
every time
crucial.
I've heard this story, it's the same thing over and over again. I said it, I told. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew what kind of reaction you were going to have, or I was too afraid to tell you. We need to have spaces where children can come to adults and not feel judged or not feel wrath or the anger that comes along with the adult's guilt.
True.
So
I love it because it's not about me. It's about what I've gone through. A memoir is your memory. It's not my memoir. It's a memoir because a memory that you learn something that you can help someone else. So for you to bring that, let's grab these golden nugget moments because it's not about me. And yeah, we will have a time cut off, but we have to grab those moments in this moment because that's what this is, teachable moments. So that is very powerful for you to say parents have to listen, because I was the type of child that wouldn't even tell. I always tell parents too, we say no about something that feels so good. It feels good. So when a little kid but this feels good, so why would I tell? So there's and it's many young kids that go to their parents and, different scenarios, their parents don't even want to deal with it. You can't even conceive that your husband would have sex with your granddaughter. It's like, that's sick. I couldn't conceive anything like that, but it happens. So I was the type of child that didn't have that connection. And so who was I going to tell? So you got to check in with your kids.
Yes.
You got to check in with and you got to do stories. Stories are always wonderful because it takes it out of the moment. So you got to be like, wow, this little girl told me that her uncle was touching her in all kinds of places. And some places just aren't to be touched by uncles and nobody. And, I've got this story of, I told a 6-year-old that diamonds and gold, that's what's between her legs. And she was 6, and I had to do the pinky promise. I said, your mom has told you about big molesters? Yeah. I said, did your mom tell you about little boys might want to touch it? No. Little girls might want to touch it? No. Oh, everybody's going to want to touch it. Every time you turn around, somebody's going to be wanting to touch, but it's filled with diamonds and gold. And this little 6-year-old was like, what? I'm like, it's your pocketbook. What would your mom do if you try to take her your mom got a pocketbook. Yeah. What's in it? Keys? Her money? Isn't it important to her? Yeah. You think she wants somebody to take it and touch it and take it away? No. Well, that's what's between your legs. It's your pocketbook. So we have to create those kind of moments that bring that connection, because by the time the molestation or you do the pussy with somebody because they said they may leave you and you want connection, you gotta have those moments that you just check in with your babies all the time and make it fun.
Yes.
Make it fun. So by the time they find out
The reaction, your mom's reaction.
Yeah, she we're in a hospital, and the doctor is not the baby doctor, and this doctor starts screaming himself when he finds out. And why my mom was outside the door, it was back in those days. There was no female nurse, it was a male doctor. Mom was outside the door. I can't even imagine why my mom would be outside the door now that I think back, but she heard some noise, and that's in the book, those little details. But she opens up the door and she's hit with it and literally has a nervous breakdown in the moment. And whisked from the children's ward of Brentwood Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, Brentwood, Ohio. And she's taken up. Next time I saw my mother, she was shaking with tubes and weights on her neck like this.
Why do you think she had such a visceral response to it? I mean, obviously, yes, it's shocking for you, excuse me, to find out that your baby is going to have a baby. So I don't mean to be, I'm not asking that to be callous, but I mean, she had, this is a physical reaction to it. It sounds almost hysterical. Why do you think she responded?
It was nervous breakdown. And it was nervous breakdown material. It's one thing if you were in Mississippi or in Tennessee, down south. My dad was from Mississippi, and it was his mom was 13, only daddy I ever known. But Cleveland, Ohio, this is unheard of. And why would she have such almost she could have lost her mind?
Yeah.
Because of what, not only is, you can't even conceive that an 11-year-old kid, matter of fact, this is the day after I turned 12, okay? And you can't even conceive that an 11-year-old kid, maybe today with, a wet ASSPUSSY songs, it's a whole nother world. But back then it was just, no, not up north in Cleveland. And then we all drown, so many of us, from what everyone is going to think. And that had to be one of the reasons why my mother had a nervous breakdown and literally went out in a moment. because it's like she lived her life, and like many of us, and because we're humans, we care about people. We care about each other. We're hardwired to care. And then somehow, I often say, we're like, let's say, think back to the very first time you're skipping and everything is super cool. And then somebody says, well, wait a minute, put your arms up. And I do this exercise in the moment. I speak juvenile halls, foster homes, prisons, and I've done this exercise so many times, and I'll be so for example, we're skipping through life, and then suddenly, put your arms up. And people actually put their arms up. It's like, no, don't put your arms up. You can put them down. I'm just telling you the story. Because I show just how much of a robot we are trained to be. And so we're told, just remember the moment that you first had to put your arms up, and then you said, what is this? It's deodorant. Oh, what's that? Oh, honey, listen, you gotta use this because you don't smell good enough. And this is going to, oh, okay. So now 1 second earlier, you were okay. Smell fine. But now you got to use this deodorant. Why? So you won't smell. So the way you smell isn't good enough. And now you're not pretty enough. Oh, wait, you're not rich enough. And I say you catch the I'm not enoughs. And I call it the I'm not enough disease. That's what we catch. And then most of us live our whole life to get back to this courage and freedom we were born with. Running around, 2 years old, naked. And people stop, go put some clothes on.
Right.
Nobody cares. You're cool. And then suddenly you hear, stop that, honey. Honey, stop that. Yes, I was just talking. Honey, please. Oh, yes, what were you saying? Honey, listen. Wait, hold on. Sit down.
Right.
You're embarrassing me. Think of how early on we get that message. And so most of us fight our entire life to get back to what we were born with, courage. And so that's why Mom, because she lived, and Mom is still alive, and I love her so much. And right now we are actually going through our challenges. Yeah. I have finally concluded that I'm no longer addicted to any pain. And when people give you pain and they're used to giving you pain, you must break the cycle. You have to teach people how you want to be treated.
I want to pause right there because there's a quote, sorry, and I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure that I said it correctly. You said, the real addiction is the addiction to being abused. And it ties in with what you're talking about with that pain. Can we marinate in this a little bit? Talk a little bit more about that and pain and this being addicted to being abused.
Great question, Matt. I remember the first time I said that, I literally 3 days fetal position. I cried. I couldn't even get up when I said, I am addicted to being abused. I mean, my eyes are watering up right now. I just can't cry because my Luar did my makeup and I want to cry. I can't cry.
You gotta get in trouble from Luar.
Baby. I've had people, I don't do the traditional therapeutic thing anymore. I'm a clinical psychologist, but I've had clients get angry and stop speaking to me, and you would not believe what that phrase says to the spirit. And when I first said those words and put those words together, addiction to abuse comes in different packages. And that is what my drug use was. It was no longer feeling the disconnect from my mother and this void, but trying to fill it up with heroin. So, and then after I stopped using, I often tell people I found sobriety February 11th, 1985.
You remember the date.
Oh, yeah. because that's the day that I went to prison. And I hate to jump, but
We're going to talk about that.
We got to do that.
We're going to talk about that.
I don't. Yeah, that's the day I went to prison, and that was February 11th, 1985. I was not arrested. I got rescued, and I have not. I'm so happy that I trust myself now. I have some champagne, maybe a Kahlua and cream, but I have no desire for drugs, substance at all. But I break my neck to get to the pool, and I've been doing yoga 20 plus years, and riding that bike and walking that beach, and that's my drug because it kicks off that chemical in the brain. But addiction to abuse is something that one has to make peace with. It will come in different packages. It must be recognized. And why? Because it could be possible that you're experiencing this moment because you're worthy. Why you? You. Oh, if you're not worthy, it could be anyone else. Whoever finds this is chosen and highly favored.
Yes.
It's the truth. So why must you begin to look at your life and say, this stuff comes in different packages?
Yes.
You see, abuse. And verbally saying it is the moment that you can say, wow, I am aware. And awareness is what brings the change. Because until you know, how can you change it? Yeah.
I asked you that question because you referred to your sister and your mom as your torturers at that time. And it was a segue to me now looking at your life once your baby came, your son, came into this world, and you found yourself a mother at 12, correct? So how did that impact you as far as the family dynamic was concerned? What happened? Were you able to bring up the baby within the household, and how were you treated thereafter?
I became a sideshow, a leper. If you have ever read about leprosy, I definitely had it. The child did end up coming home, and wait till you read that in the book. He ended up coming home, raised in the home, and I was made to take on that responsibility. Much too young. But my mother didn't know any other way. You made your bed hard, now you lay in it. And when he first got home, he'd be crying, pick him up! I gotta go to work in the morning. Put him down! You're spoiling him. So it was this literal madness inside my mind. I tried to smother him at one point. Thank God for my sister. And I don't thank God for my sister often. Sometimes I tell too much truth. But yeah, that's it. It was madness. It was maddening. That's what it was.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because just the other day, I read something where someone was talking about how in the Asian community, when a woman has a baby, regardless of how young or old she is, it's customary for the parents, particularly the mother, to come in as a caregiver and to be the one to help raise the child, so that that young person or the woman can go out and, if she wants to work or pursue other things, education, etc. The mom's there. It's customary. Somebody also mentioned the same thing within the Jewish community and also within the Latino community, and asked, it was on a Facebook page that I belong to. It's actually, I think it's Black people in Hawaii or Blacks in Hawaii. And the person asked, why don't we, within our own community, within the Black community, why don't we do that? Why don't we, as parents, do that for our children? And it just reminded me about the harshness that we tend to have as a community when we have young men and women who are in situations where they do find themselves having to bring children into the world at a young age, and then raise those children, we tend to have this very hard approach. You made that baby, you take care of that baby. I've had my babies. I'm not looking after your baby. Why do you think that is?
Well, we come from a village. Even our ancestors that were already here in America, and the ones that were brought over on the ship. And when you said that, I just thought, we actually had the ability to hire a nanny, came into the house. We didn't call her a nanny, we called her Betsy. But she was able to take the baby while I continued school. But when you come in as Black people, you come in with so many other dynamics. I'm thinking my mother has, her saying, and I love it, is I got to keep good shoes on your feet. I got a vegetable garden on my feet, corns, calluses, and bunions. That's my mama's quote. Corns, calluses, and bunions, baby. So I'm thinking, for her to stop her life, and I was in a 2-parent household. So why are we so harsh when it comes to when children, young people make mistakes? It's because we lived a harsh existence. Everything that we think is disturbing within our race as Black people wrapped in Black skin, we can trace it back to the enslavement trade. No excuses, just an understanding. Because once you grasp an understanding, then it's no one's fault. Then suddenly you want to heal and you understand, I was a victim when I was little. My choice now to survive and thrive and fall madly in love with yourself.
My messaging as a child from my mother was, don't have a baby too young, because once you have a child, it will ruin your life. And so that messaging, I don't have kids to this day, and that messaging carried on for most of my life. I was taught, and my mom, now that I'm older, I know that she didn't mean that children ruin your life, but she was trying to tell me that I needed to do what I can do with my life to establish myself as a woman before I started thinking of children, but it did not come across that way. And so for most of my life, I felt like I was a burden and I was unwanted. And so that messaging is very powerful. The messaging, it all ties in together. You made your bed, you lay in it. Don't have a baby when you're too young, or else it'll ruin your life. All of that. And thank you for quantifying kind of why we as a community feel that way. And it's not just because of our own suffering, but it's also because of what the aspirations that we have for our children. Get your education, go out and get a job, do something with your life. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I can't begin to direct a parent on what messaging you give to a child, but it took me a very long time to understand why
you chose not to have children.
Yeah, and why I think this messaging, the whole you made your bed, you lay in it kind of thing. I feel in some instances it perpetuates this hard thing that we have on ourselves and on each other. Be strong. You can't cry. You got to be, you've got to, well, I've said be strong, but you just got to keep going. Get up. We again, I'm referring to our community. We tend to be hard on ourselves and hard on each other. But there is a reason for it. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I wish that there was another way. But we are also, as a people, great achievers.
True. That drives us, no doubt. I want to say this. I love you for saying reason. A reason besides an excuse. There's no excusing it. But there are reasons.
There are reasons.
And when we do that, then we can be easier on others that didn't know what to do.
Right.
Which makes us easier on ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what we want to be.
Yes.
And I've been on both sides of the fence. I was a 12-year-old mother. I hated my son. I didn't want him. I used to leave him on the porch of my neighbor's house and run away because they would make me take care of him. I couldn't hug him. I couldn't kiss him. I hated him.
But look at how that was life perpetuating
Yes.
itself. Mom,
Yes.
this is a generational thing
Yes.
now.
And now we talking we generational curses broken. Yeah, I never had any children and anymore. It's too traumatic. But one day I'm sitting with my mother's two sisters in Baltimore, and one of them say, "Well, you know why you never had no more kids?" I was like, "What you mean? Senior?" That's my mama's name, right? And she said, "Honey, that's all she used to say when she was young. Ain't no man sticking me with no babies." And I didn't even realize that these silent messages we get, because I wasn't going to get stuck with no other man's baby. Thank goodness everybody doesn't feel like that. The population be zero.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
it is good to have conversation about it and to have the word reason
Yeah.
instead of excuse. No excuses.
Yeah. So let's go now. All right, you have your baby. You're growing up. You're getting older. You talk about, and I can't wait until this book comes out. I swear, I cannot wait until this book comes out because, woof. Okay. So you're still, living your life. You've got this baby. You're raising your baby, and the streets
Yes.
start calling.
Yes.
How did you respond? What was your response to that call?
Yeah, great question. The streets started calling. No, I called the streets. Yeah. I tell young people as I speak today that I could have been a rocket scientist, a chemist. Would have been nice to be an accountant instead of a criminal. You have choice. And even with pain and inside of one's soul, still choices. A lot of people were in a whole lot of pain, and they decided to do other things besides medicate with heroin and drugs and call the streets to them.
Okay. So when you say you call the streets, you mentioned that you started selling drugs. Is that correct?
Well, the very first thing I did was hit the streets.
Okay.
Because
What do you mean hit the streets?
Yeah, what was happening at home wasn't happening. So now I'm about 13 years old, and I came through this maternity home, whole another story, to have this baby. And I land back home or in the maternity home, I meet someone who's actively, she's about 14. She's got an aunt. She's in a whole nother environment. Her mother plays cards, has these parties at her house. So she was a lot more advanced with the streets. And the very first thing that I was introduced to was something, if you're dealing with someone that is hurt and broken and they're attempting to find some way to medicate, then they're going to introduce you to some drugs 9 times out of 10. And so after 13 of having this baby, I'm told I'm bad. I internalized it. I skipped over marijuana, cigarettes, and liquor and started shooting heroin. It doesn't get any badder than that. And so that's exactly what I did. And by the time I get off into shooting heroin, then it's on and popping. You gotta feed a drug habit. And I don't come from a family of drug addicts. I had a 2-parent household. My father worked at Republic Steel. He had a brick business on the side. And my mother worked all her life. There's no other quote unquote criminal in the family. Just me. And hopefully I have set an example for my nieces and nephews, because my sister has children and her children have children. My son did have one child that he left on this earth, but I am the example of what not to be. And that's what I say about you being so brilliant to reach out to me so that I can be the voice to say to everybody, I've been to the penitentiary for you. I done been in the pain and drowned for you. And in this moment, you can blink your eyes. How fast do we make up our mind? Blink your eye. Your mind just told your eyes to blink. You can Understand that this moment is happening in your life because someone has already done all the negatives for you. And now you can start to live your life in the fullness of appreciation for life. So I call the streets to me because I was really, really hurting. And I ran into some people that was really, really hurting. And so and then with heroin comes crime. So I started catching all kinds of cases, which is what you heard: car theft, drug sales, check fraud. Someone along the way, I think it was in one of my bios, or maybe the show, said the bio for the show said she started selling drugs to support her way through school. That's not true.
Okay, so that's not true.
Oh, that's not the case at all.
Okay.
No, I can't make it pretty. I could say that, nobody would know, but the Creator knows. I tell everybody, not one thought or deed goes unnoticed by the Creator of all of heaven and earth. Does that sound spooky? First time I got that, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, spirit voice, are you kidding? Not one thought nor deed goes unnoticed by the Creator of all of heaven and earth. So clean your mind. That's what I decided to do. So here I am with a father who has his third grade education, but left Mississippi for a better life, working in Republic, still got a big business, and we got a family attorney. So I started catching cases because I was crazed out of my mind and because I wanted attention. I dressed in pink today because this is Pink Square, by the way. But really, Mama didn't give me enough attention when I was little. So I get it now. I definitely get it now. But then I wanted to hurt my mother in any way I possibly could. I didn't know it ended up destroying me. You can't hurt nobody else. You're gonna kill yourself. So Daddy had inner city money, and when I caught a case, Mr. Lee pick up a money bag, brown paper bag. You heard of them brown paper bags that do the payoffs? I was a witness. And we go to court in the judge's chambers. Now with this consciousness I have now, like the payoff should have happened in the hallway. In the judge's chambers, I sit there, watch the judge take his cut, prosecutor take the cut, attorney take it in for the just for us system. The justice system is just for us that can afford to pay. America's first heroes were America's first crooks. Let's say that again. That's a quote from Tupac's best friend, Ray Love. I'm shouting you out. It says America's first heroes was America's first crooks. And when you young, 18, 17, 18 years old, and you watching it go down like this, well, it's all just a game. Once everybody get their cut, I go out of the judge's chamber, stand in front of the judge. Yes, Your Honor. Yes, I'm in Kent State. I'm in school now. I had a baby when I was so young, and I'm gonna get it together, Your Honor, 6 times.
6 times you went before the judge.
Case after case after case after case. And this is the kind of message that was sent because of the money.
So, you are in the streets, you go to prison, you were in prison for
4 years.
For 4
and
years.
5 months on a first bit. Bit meaning penitentiary stay.
Okay.
You normally get shock. I used to have something called shock probation. You go down 6 months, you're shocked, and you come back. And shock was available then, but after so many cases, and then Daddy and Mama found out I was shooting dope, they stopped spinning, and I ran into a judge that said, "Oh, if you want recovery, it's in prison. You can go to recovery in prison. 4 years, 5 months. Get out of here."
I am not going to ask as many questions as I want to because I want people to get this book and I want to read this. I want people to read your story, but I'm going to fast forward. You leave prison. Your baby, your son, passes.
Yes.
Shortly thereafter.
I get out of the joint. Yeah, and Eric gets killed in a car accident. Yeah.
You go through that pain, and then fast forward to you getting your bachelor's and subsequently your master's. you becoming an executive producer. I don't understand. Like, I've cut out a great deal because I do want people to get the book and to read this story.
Thank you.
How did you get to where you are today, and what is your message to people who have gone through? Because there are people out there who are going through this type of trauma who don't get a platform to tell their story. So your message, how is it possible for someone who has endured what you've endured to sit here today as a clinical psychologist who now is helping people? You said, in fact, like a phoenix who has risen from the ashes, I've turned my pain into purpose.
So true. Wow. I mean, this moment of watching your eyes, watching your body language, and hearing the passion in your voice, you came such a long way to get here to me. And I've been waiting on that moment, and to experience it with you makes it all so worthwhile. I just can't. It's almost like an out-of-body experience to sit here with you and hear you say that. All those things. And know that I look into your eyes and thank you for a platform to speak so that others can heal. Because you felt my pain, because you've been through the pain. That's all. And I really appreciate, just being saved and having someone like you feel enough to say, hey, speak on it, And so the name of the book is called Naked Insanity because, like I said, pain comes in so many different packages. It's been a 30-year journey to get a book out. And when I was running the streets and after having my son, I tell everybody I just separated from life. And I became a viewer of my life, I disassociated. So if you told me, be a 12-year-old mother, okay. Okay, be a dope fiend. All right. Be the decoy for the boosters in the stores. All righty. Now go to prison. Be a criminal and a prisoner. Okay. And that's how I lived my life with no feeling whatsoever. I decided I didn't want to hurt anymore. When I was in prison, Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and I encourage everyone who's looking at this, who's blessed to see this, the song, make it a mantra. Play it almost every chance you get. Because that song was sent, Saida Garrett wrote that. But only when Michael's voice sings it, I don't care where I'm at, I literally lose it. I start just immediately screaming and crying. Because it was that song, and the first time he performed it on TV, I'm laying in a prison bunk. And for the first time in my life, I got up off the bunk and I went to the mirror. That's why I know how powerful the mirror exercise is. And don't just look in your eyes, look through your eyes. Look through your eyes into your soul. The eyes are the window to the soul. And see your pain. I used to tell people it was a monster. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a monster. I couldn't look in the mirror. I saw that little girl who used to sit in the mirror and look and be ready, getting ready for school, but she couldn't button her blouses and she didn't know why. And I hated the mirror and I hated myself. And I hated the song, Learning to Love Yourself. It's the greatest love of all. I used to say, turn it off. I can't stand that song. You make a choice that you no longer have to hurt. You no longer have to choose to self-destruct, to hurt. You get tired of being addicted to the pain. You decide, well, darn, there is no other me. That means each one of us are unique as our fingerprint. And then you begin to say, well, darn, that's what I finally hit me. I'm not that bad. When I get out of here, I'm going to love myself. And if mama loved my sister more than me and, all the other things that were real, then why didn't I shoot the dope in them? What was making me shoot it in me? And when Michael Jackson sang that song, and I got up off that prison bunk, thank you, sweetheart, and I went to that mirror, I said, this is it. Not only am I going to love myself, I'm going to find a way. And once you have that intention, then it starts to fuel. The universe opens up to our desires. Somebody tell you stupid, you stupid, you stupid. Long enough, you're going to believe it. Somebody tell you smart, you smart, you smart. Right now, I want you to do this. Smile. Instantly. Look at that. Most of us started smiling just from that thought. That's how powerful it is. So after that song, I got up off the prison bunk. I looked in the mirror. I said, this is it. I don't know how I'm going to love myself, but I'm going to do it. Power of music, power of media. And then right after that, Don King came on, to the King family, who controlled the streets in Cleveland, Ohio at one point, those ghetto streets. I knew Don King had been to prison. I knew he had, I knew he was a thug in the streets, I didn't know. But what I knew is that he had decided to do something in his life. And he was from where I was from, role model. That's why I live my life right now. Some girl and little guy is going to see this, and they're going to be in prison. And they're going to say, if she can do it, I can do it. So in that moment, I said, wow, he's into boxing. And I thought, that's gruesome. But the Beverly Hillbillies, power of the media. When I was little, I used to look at their floors and look at our floors. And we're in a beautiful suite, thanks to this woman right here. This is fabulous. So I can actually look at these floors. And remember, I used to look at the ones on TV and look at ours. I was like, I got to blow this joint. Something more is out there. But I thought it was something called success. I came with 5 boxes of computer and a dream from Cleveland, Ohio to Hollywood, chasing something called success. And everything I touched it didn't work. And then one day the spirit voice, the most important person in your life. Remember this. I'm going to tell you, the most important person in your life is the person that lives in your head. That's the most important person.
I wrote that quote down. That's one of your quotes.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. That's
That's
one of
real.
your quotes.
And since you got to live with this person, you might as well make that person nice.
Cheryl, where can people first of all, when is your book coming out? Say the title again. Tell us when it's coming out and where we can get it.
Okay.
Because you are a plethora of knowledge, a fountain of knowledge. We could sit here for all day, every day talking to you because it just comes. It's a well of knowledge. Where can people get this book?
Well, I just like to say
the title.
Oh, yes. So I call it Naked Insanity. I put myself in a self-made prison. Took me 30 years to get this book written. Working with an editor finally, and I've been through maybe I 50 grand. Easy. I finally found Rayanne, who had been she's a sex trafficking survivor. So she understands that kind of depth of self-hatred. And so right now, she told me that on Monday that just passed, we would be going through the whole book. Monday came and went. Honey, I ain't saying nothing to her yet. I'm hoping by the end of the month, the first pass will be finished.
Miss Rayanne.
Rayanne.
I don't know which camera to look at, but we need the book. Can we get the book, please?
Thank you, Madeleine.
Please, can we get the book?
Help a girl out.
Woo!
Yeah. So it's called Naked Insanity, and I finally came up with that because I have cried, I have screamed, I don't like my writing. Again, understanding, awareness. I put myself in a prison. Didn't want to go back to prison. Didn't want to shoot no more drugs. I put myself in a prison with the book. So it's been judgment. Acknowledgement of that has given me some peace. I went on a journey. It takes a team, takes a village. So it's called Naked Insanity, that after I've gone through all I've been through to get this book, one day I said, okay, well, first of all, research the most research word on Amazon. Guess what? It was naked. I was like, well, I don't want to turn the kids off. And then something said Naked Insanity. That's who I am. And I say that because once you strip insanity of all of its clothing, it is now sane. So I am Naked Insanity, where you come to get your mind medicine so that you can go pick up your prescription on how to become authentically you. And together we will do this. So now, from ex-con to clinical psychologist to an executive producer in Hollywood, you guys, the book is coming. I have a website, Cheryl Rich, CherylRich. A lot of people in Hollywood say, hey, that last name Rich was a good idea. I'm like, no.
It's
that was
her name.
Yeah.
I asked her.
Yeah.
That was one of the first questions I asked her.
And guess what I say? They be like, in Hollywood, they're like, yeah, sure. Nobody believes me, but yeah. So CherylRich.com.
CherylRich.com.
That's the website.
Viewers, please dial in, connect with Cheryl Rich. She has enriched my life, and
So honored.
I can't believe that the universe has delivered you in this perfect package with a beautiful, beautiful bow on it. I believe that there are many more conversations that you and I are going to have, and it would be an honor from God, from the universe, whatever anybody believes in, for me to be able to continue to dial in with you, to connect in with you. I know you have all of these accolades. It's not about that.
Oh, no.
There is so much wisdom in you. I am more than excited to sit at your feet and learn, because in the short space of time that you and I have started talking, you have changed my perspective on life, on me. You have given me the strength and the energy to even do this show. And I would not have had any conversation like this with anybody else. You were the first. And I am so grateful to you, not just for this, but for your willingness to share your life and your pain, but most importantly, your success and your triumph over trauma. And you are a gift to us. Please continue to do that. I love you and adore you so much.
I am honored. You guys, I thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you so much. I am at Cheryl Helps on IG. CherylHelps. On Facebook, I'm the real Cheryl Rich. Although I got the other page, I don't know how to mingle them. I forgot I got the first Cheryl Rich. And then the website, CherylRich.com. And whatever you all do, the house is an LBGTQ talk show dinner party. Okay? And I'm just going to say where straights and gays come together to discuss tolerance. The chef is not, she's not gay. And it's all gay black male panel and me. And I tell everybody, are you gay? I used to be gay and I used to be straight and I just get into bed and go to sleep by 8.
I love that quote. I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time from her now.
This is a mental health show.
Yes.
Wrapped in food, fun, and laughter.
Yes.
It is universal.
Please watch it.
That's what we connected.
Please watch it.
You guys keep following her. Follow Pink Square because she finna do big things, bigger than what's happening. What does that mean? Because we gonna touch lives. I will wrap by saying this. The most important thing I do in my life is I run the streets at nighttime. And I don't look for our houseless brothers and sisters. For the earth is our home. I look for the ones not in an RV, not in a car or tent, but laying on the ground. And I pull up, excuse me, can I give you a pillow?
Yeah.
I'm the pillow fairy. And I want all of you to become the pillow fairy. Feed our homeless brothers and sisters and bow down when they give you the privilege. That's what I do today. That's my most success ever.
Miss Cheryl Rich, thank you so much for joining us today. And guys, please watch this episode all the way through. I know it was lengthy, but please watch it all the way through because you cannot stop wisdom. You cannot stop wisdom. And I hope that you have gotten from this as much as I have. Continue to follow Cheryl. You can follow us on YouTube at The Pink Square Show. You can follow us on all social media at The Pink Square Show. Thank you so much for watching, and that's our show for today.
Let's toast to toast to them first. Toast to us. What? Peace of mind, baby. Breathe long, slow, and deep. That's the key. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thanks for watching.
Indeed. Give me a hug, dog.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Pink Square Show. See you next time.